a lot of things. I mean, literally anything, because I know this very quickly can get technical, almost more than anything else. And hardware is very Greek to a lot of people. So feel free, don't be shy to type in a question, and happy to get that answered. So all that being said, I will hand this over to Forrest.
Hey everybody, how's it going? Can everybody see my screen and hear me okay? Just wanted to make sure that we're doing good. Yeah, I guess Jeremiah has a lot more experience in the thick of it for longer periods of time than I have, but I also have been building computers since I was in junior high and working with those sorts of things and seeing the progression of things. It's always interesting. We've tried to outline this in an easy to digest format for, like Jeremiah said, for people who think this is Greek to them. So what we have here is we're going to be covering the following. Let's see here. Um, so common questions that we get, people will call us and we'll say, oh, it looks like your computer's really old or underpowered for CAD. And they'll say, what, it's fine. But then it takes 20 minutes to start CAD and it takes 20 minutes to restart the Windows. So why upgrade? How to budget? That's something really important that Jeremiah pointed out to me that should be in this webinar. And I was like, that is really good information that people should know. Ideal small office setup, our office setup as an example, key hardware components, operating system information, and then we'll go over all the different types of hardware available out there, and of course, backup procedures. Um, so why would you want to upgrade? Well, as we all know, your time is money. You don't want your computers to be down. We had a big client of ours had a major computer failure, and their backup system failed them, and their IT infrastructure failed them, and they lost a lot of money. So that's not acceptable in this day and age. I mean, this is 2016. So you'll want to make sure that you have all of your technology on point so that that's not going to be an issue and you don't have to lose any money. Old operating systems, that's a really common issue too. We had a client just yesterday call me, and his computer was only 3 years old and was running Windows 7, but the Windows operating system was tired. It had updates installed, updates uninstalled, patching. Over time, those things build unforeseen issues down the road that you might not see right away. Maintenance costs, IT costs. The more you have to work on your computer, the more expensive it gets. Incompatibility issues with new versions of software, new versions of Adobe and Autodesk and what have you. And of course, speed, which comes right back to time is money. That's probably the most important thing. Um, Now, this is a great little bit right here, how to budget. Now, the standard industry average lifespan of a CAD workstation is 3 to 4 years. We recommend 2 to 3 years, to be completely honest. Um, but how can you budget for this? We had a conversation about this, and this is kind of what we came up with. You could spend $4,000 on a new computer every 4 years and get a really, really fast computer that will last you 4 years. Or you could spend around $1,500 on a new computer every 2 years. And in this day and age, you can get a really fast, decent computer for $1,500. And that ends up being less money than 4 grand every 4 years. That's just kind of an example of how to consider budgeting for a new computer and how to work that into your budget so that it's not such a shock when you have to upgrade unexpectedly or anything like that. Um, and this is something that we found about $100 a month for every employee. That's kind of an average hardware budget. And something that Jeremiah pointed out was you could use a little automated savings account. Just have your bank pop $100 a month into your account for every employee and just let it sit there because you're going to have to spend that money anyways. So those are good like small business tips. That's or for any business really. Jared, did you have anything to say about this?
Obviously, or if it's a bigger company with an actual budget, that should
Yeah.
be basically the budget. Hopefully that your IT department covers, and obviously that 100 a month is a little heavy because of course that's if you go wait a minute that's coming to 2,400 every 2 years. So what's nice is that is basically hardware and service basically is the way to consider it, and all hardware. So that's going to also mean that if your router blows up or something like that, and so you just can easily wash that out. And granted, yes, in a bigger company, you're going to have them fighting for $75 an employee a month and arguing over literally that $5 increment or something. Like you fight like heck to get it to $90 an employee just so that you can get two monitors, you know. But just try your best to do that, and like Forrest said, yeah, you throw $25 a week into a savings account, and you're just going to find that you always have a great computer, and you never have to worry about money.
Yeah, and in this day and age, uh, it's uh, it's a reality that we have to deal with. We have to deal with these computers. They run our life, they run our world, they run our business, they run land effects. And so it's really important to just make sure that that's all square, that you have the budget to deal with it, and that it won't be an unexpected shock when your computer dies or catches on fire or what have you. This is kind of a typical office setup. This is what we see a lot of our small business, medium-sized business clients. Very standard setup. You've got your server, and that's running a Land Effects server component, and it's hosting all your files, it's hosting your licenses, hosting some network-based software, including Land Effects server, and that kind of shoots out, and all the workstations connect to it. The workstation that has CAD, workstation that has Land Effects workstation on it. And of course, their automated backup procedures are going to their standard backup drive and then their offsite monthly backup drive as well. So it's just kind of an overview of an outline of like, oh, okay, we've got 5 employees or what have you. There's your general outline of a typical office setup, so you have an idea that you need a couple of backup drives, you need a server machine, your workstations, your monitors, etc. Um, Now, a lot of our clients are using cloud server solutions, so that throws a bit of a kink in it because um, we have had multiple clients say, "Well, we're using a cloud server, so we don't have a server." Well, we still recommend that even with cloud storage, it's important to maintain some local storage and backup procedures because if you're reliant 100% on the cloud, it's just important to have a peace of mind and have your own files backed up on your own drives. We just feel that that's an important thing to do. So there's your cloud file storage and then your Land Effects cloud database. This is a new thing. This is the Land Effects um, data in the cloud that we've just been rolling out. We have probably a couple dozen clients using Land Effects cloud data right now, and it's proving to be really, really, really good for clients that have multiple locations and want to sync their Land Effects database across several offices. Obviously, a lot of people back in the day are used to using a VPN connection, and um, that's where you pipe in through the internet to remotely log into your server, and it's really slow. And that's just kind of the old way of doing things. So now everyone's getting around to running a cloud database, cloud file storage, and it's great. So this is kind of a general overview of a cloud storage office. We just wanted to make sure that you're still going to want to maintain your local storage and local backup drives. Let's see here. Okay, here's our office. We run iMacs in our office and Mac laptops as well. And of course, in order to run our Windows only software, we have Parallels installed on these computers. Windows 10, we're running FXCAD 2016 that's coming out next month, Land Effects Workstation, and we're still running our Land Effects server on our physical server in our office that hosts all of our business files, all of our CAD drawings and everything else. We have this really great fireproof backup drive that everything goes to automatically, and of course our offsite drive. So it's very similar to the typical small office setup. How many people do we have in here? 12 people, I think. So it's very, very similar to those kind of standard setups. And just as an example of what we've got going on, Jerry, have anything to say?
Maybe more on the cloud setup is obviously that is the future, but the future can be 1 year or 100 years, right? So you definitely want to start planning for cloud-based services, Google Docs versus Microsoft Office. Start to and that's starting to. That's not saying as a company, that's it. We're no longer buying Microsoft Office. We're only using Google Docs. But to start trying that out and to start have some of your key spreadsheets, for instance, have them available only on Google Docs, to start feeling that out. And you're going to find, obviously, because yes, in the pretty near future here, you're just going to have such a reliable, always-on internet connection that's just as fast as any network connection that there's no reason for you to maintain a separate server computer. But at the same time, though, that separate server computer is still going to get cheaper and cheaper and cheaper, and so you may well still have a $100 server computer that has 14 terabytes of storage. Why not have that locally still? But there is so much to be gained in cloud things. So this is the primary thing to consider is budgeting for and managing an office setup is how to basically transition to things being cloud-based and how to gauge what things you're allowing to be. For instance, telephone lines. A lot of people like us are using voice over IP telephones. And so, that's just a decision that's made by many companies is if the internet's down, our phones are down. So if that's the case, can your accounting software be down? Can your land effects be down? And those are the sorts of decisions that you're really going to have to start making, regardless of whether or not you actually maintain a server, which regardless, like I said, we would recommend you always still maintain a server. You're going to have gigabytes and gigabytes of project photos and things that you don't necessarily need to worry about gobbling up your Dropbox storage. So that's all my thoughts on that.
And I also remember Jeremiah was saying, this is the future. I remember reading Tim Berners-Lee talking about how everything's going to be cloud-based in a couple of decades. And I remember back then when we had dial-up internet, I remember thinking, how would that ever be possible? That's crazy talk. And now here we are. We're running Google Docs, we're running all of this stuff, Adobe Creative Cloud, everything like that. So it's just kind of funny looking back and thinking about that. So when you're looking for a new computer, there's so many things to look for. It can be really overwhelming. I know we know that. And a lot of this stuff gets lost in the mix. Back in the day, it was so important to think about, oh, I got to get the fastest processor. But we kind of ordered these in order of importance when you're looking for a computer. So first and foremost, most of you are using CAD and SketchUp on your computer, and those two programs in particular are extremely resource intensive. So the hard drive is very important. The solid state drive, that's an absolute must have. We've stopped recommending, or rather, we've been recommending against the old school hard drives that have the spinning platter. They're just too slow now. So the solid state hard drive, you're going to see a dramatic increase. So that's absolutely imperative. Make sure you get that. Now you can get these common setups that they have now where it's just a solid state system drive. So the operating system is nice and fast, and then you can get a big storage drive that's an old school traditional drive, and that's totally fine too. As long as you get that solid state drive going, you're really going to notice a difference. And then, of course, the video card. Um, when you do look for a new computer, make sure you're checking these specs. A lot of times we'll recommend a specific computer model, a brand and model, and someone will go out and find it for cheap just based on that model name. And then they'll come back and we'll say, well, that's not the video card we recommended. That happens too often. So it's really important to just double check, look at those specs. And sometimes those specs are hard to understand. They can be hard to figure out, but you kind of got to do a little bit of digging. What do we have? We've got like an example here of this guy where it just says the video card. It doesn't say how much video memory is there. So then you can either do some digging on this page and see what that video card is and go specs, go find it, dedicated card, that's good, but it still doesn't say the RAM. So then you've got to Google the thing, and it gets a little intensive and cumbersome and confusing, you know, and a lot of these sites won't say exactly what it is. So here's a good option. We'll go look here. We'll say, okay, what does this have? Right? 2 GB. There it is. Okay. So see, it took a little bit of digging to get to that specific information, and that is one of the key points that you're going to need to know about when you're looking for video cards. So just make sure you do a little digging and double check that. RAM, obviously, get as much RAM as you can, but you can upgrade the RAM on most PCs after you purchase them, and a lot of times it's cheaper to do it that way than buy the bundled included 16 GB package from the manufacturer. So, but definitely consider maxing out your hardware, your RAM as much as possible. And then here's the processor. It's not really as important as it used to be. Pretty much any computer off the shelf is going to have an i5, i7, or AMD quad core 3 gigahertz. It's all pretty much leveled out now. I forget the name of that. There's a name for that when the technology gets to a certain plateau where it can't really increase, and that's where we're at right now with processors. So I mean, obviously you're going to want to get a good processor, but most of them are going to be fine. Let's see, what did that laptop have that we were just looking at? Yeah, see, that's an i7, 2.9 gigahertz. That's going to be plenty fine. That's just right off the shelf right there. So there's your key hardware components ranked in order of what you need to look for when you're looking for a CAD workstation. We do get a lot of questions about operating systems. Um, Windows 7 versus Windows 10. Notice I completely omitted Windows 8. It's just a non-starter, really. It was nobody liked it. It was confusing, so didn't even list it here. Windows 7 is still very popular. A lot of people like it. It's a robust platform, and it functions great. In a couple of years, they're going to start warning you about killing it like they killed Windows XP. But that's, I believe, 2020 is the end date. I'm not sure. I'll have to look that up again. But that's something to consider. So, now's the time to update to Windows 10, which we found to be a robust platform, easy to use. They brought the start menu back, so that makes it easy for everybody. Better search and file management functions. So we recommend getting Windows 10. But just recently, we've found a couple of Autodesk things that are having issues with Windows 10, but it appears that those are all being resolved right now. So it shouldn't be a concern. We still recommend Windows 10. Should be fine. Um, and of course, Mac versus Windows. We get that question all the time. And it really comes down to personal preference because Some of our clients are just used Macs all their life, and we'll say, okay, that's great. Just get yourself Parallels and Windows and run our software on your Mac, and that'll work fine. Um, but it's not, it's not ideal for all the heavy Windows users. A lot of our, I'd say a majority of our clients are Windows only users, so obviously the Mac wouldn't be good for them. But it's a matter of personal preference. The new Mac computer is plenty fast enough for a CAD workstation. So that also makes the shopping a little easy. With the Windows computer, you got to do some research and find the right machine. With a Mac, get a brand new Mac. That's it. You're good. So that's pretty much that. We did have a couple questions about Windows 10 Home or Windows 10 Pro. And the Pro version is for basically a business version. The Windows 10 Home is for the home version. It doesn't have group policy management, domain join, and all of these other great versions, all of these other features that lend themselves towards managing a small, medium, or large networked environment of Windows computers. So if you're considering getting Windows 10 Home, just just use what the name is intended for. Windows 10 Home is for Home, Pro is for Pro. It's pretty cut and dry there. So that's just a little overview of some of the notes of operating systems that we have noticed over the last year. Okay, so now we'll get into the thick of it here. Here's some actual computers that we found. Alden found some of these. I found some of these. Jeremiah made some comments and we revised our recommendations. And these are based on all of those key hardware components. So, there's kind of a mid-level, low-end machine. The Lenovo's, they make, what did you call them, Jer? They're the Hyundai of the computing world. It's a good
Yeah, it's the key of
it's a commuter car. It'll get you where you need to be. But and you can get this guy. It's got a processor's fine, RAM is okay, that video card's good enough. It's got a good solid state. That's the SSD, the solid state drive. Windows 10, under $1,000. Not bad. Not bad for a little machine for under a grand. And then as it kind of tiers up, it steps up. We've got this HP that we found that's got significantly more RAM. And there's other things about HP or Dell or whatever it is that you decide to go with that I didn't make it into the visual of the presentation. But it is important to consider, using some sort of cohesive standardization across your office. In our office, we went with Macs, so we're all Mac. In your office, if you decide to go with Dell for one computer, consider standardizing your equipment. It's going to make your IT maintenance a breeze and a lot easier than if you had a hodgepodge of Lenovo's and HP's and Dell's and this computer and that computer and different brands and even operating systems. We get on some of our clients' offices and they'll have Windows Vista on a machine, they'll have Windows 7 on another, they'll have Windows 8 on another, and Windows 10 on another machine. And so everybody has a slightly different process to do the same function. On each version of Windows, there's a different way to get to your network drive to find the CAD file that you need. And so there's a lot to be said for standardizing. So that's why there's an HP, here's an Acer, here's a Dell. They're all different brands, all different types. But what we're highlighting here is that all the specs are good. I bolded all the specs here. That one has 4 gigabytes. I think this is a gaming machine for playing Call of Duty on, I believe. It sure looks like it. Um, and a lot of these have like these lower SSD drives, and there's extra bays where you can throw in a larger storage drive, no problem. Some of the bigger brands will have better warranties and better service contracts that are options that you can get with things like this and this. So that's something to consider when you're looking for computers. This Mondo machine over here, look at that guy, 32 gigs of RAM. That's going to be a nice, snappy computer. Jared, any comments on this?
yeah. One thing, and it just I just thought of it now, of course. Sorry I didn't bring it up earlier, but one thing certainly, we being landscape architects, we are concerned about the environment and all that. I can tell you just by looking at these, I guarantee you that Acer has a 750-watt power supply. And that just picture a 750-watt light bulb burning, 12 hours a day. So definitely that is also something to take a look at. Like the Dell has a really good line. Sometimes you can get an Optiplex that's got plussed up basically instead of the Precision. The Precision towers have a big power supply, whereas you can get an Optiplex with like a little 80-watt power supply. So certainly also, like if you're building your own computer, you would never want anything more than in a tower, a 250-watt power supply. So that's also something to take a look at. I see, especially with gamer computers, way too much of a power, and then so it's also putting out heat, and that little thing can literally warm a room. So, you know, at a hot day, you don't want the 5-fan gamer machine running away over there.
Yeah, it's a space heater as well. Okay, so that's just some examples. And again, these are just example machines. These are the reason we picked these was because of the specs, because they meet what we deem as standard specs based on those key hardware components. Feel free to go shop and buy some other ones. They're just examples that meet the specs. Laptops, Lenovo ThinkPad series. There's a Dell laptop, and these are just computers that are out now that we thought like, hey, these look nice. I think I like the Dell better personally of these two. Um, they've got good specs, good video cards. That's really important when you're looking for a laptop. A lot of times the laptops will have all of these other specs. It'll have this great processor. It'll have 16 gigs. It'll have a solid state, but a it won't have a dedicated video card. It'll have an integrated video card that shares the RAM, or it'll do all these other things, and it won't be a CAD machine. That one's really important to dig deeper with the laptops if you're purchasing for a CAD station. Um, and we do get a lot of questions about tablets. It's just not going to work for CAD. It's really not. Uh, the CAD needs a dedicated video card with at least a gig of RAM, video RAM, and the tablets just don't have that kind of power. They don't have that muscle right now. So, and we do have clients that install CAD on them anyways, and then they'll complain. They're like, it's almost unusable. Plus, the touch screen for CAD is not really as optimal as the keyboard mouse interface. Um, so it's our official statements say don't install it on CAD. Um, there are some tablets or iPads that you can use as an external, like an extra monitor for your laptop. Some of them, some of the newer models are able to do that, and that's pretty slick. And we also have clients who are doing um, field work where the tablet's going to be necessary, and you can have a program on there where you can draw with your finger on the site plan. You can plot your plan to a PDF or turn it into a JPEG, load that on your tablet, go out in the field, make some notes, come back into the office, open up CAD on a powerful computer, and then put your changes into the actual CAD file. We see that happening a lot as more of a practical usage for tablets, but CAD's just not going to function well, and you'll be unhappy. So we're going to say nay. Um, oh, and here's our Macs. Those are uh, those are what we have here in the office: the iMacs, MacBook Pros, and again, these are just kind of off-the-shelf versions of these computers, and they meet all the specs that we need. So that makes the shopping easy for these. You go, okay, well, that's what I want. It meets all the specs. There you go. So you don't have to worry as much as you do with the Windows machines when it comes to research. But again, there's a little caveats. These prices will get a little bit higher as you have to purchase Parallels and Windows 10, and we'll have links to those programs where you can purchase them on the webinar once it's posted, as well as this slideshow. Jar?
Yeah, it's just really unfortunate with the MacBook Pro with the 2015, I believe, when the 2015 model came out, the only one with the dedicated NVIDIA video card was the top of the line, the one that's 2499. Uh, just 1 year earlier, just the 2014 model, you could get that NVIDIA card with the one that was solidly $500 less. I think it was the one that was just under 2,000. So it's a teeny bit unfortunate that of the entire Apple notebook line, which are gorgeous, gorgeous machines, the Air and just the straight MacBook, the gold one. Those are great machines, but they don't have that dedicated video, and so they are not. They just, like Forrest said, they are not going to work for CAD and for SketchUp, but they're such nice machines. So you got to go all the way up to 2499 before you finally have a CAD machine.
That's true. That's true. So my earlier statement of these being off-the-shelf Macs, well, they are, but they're the top of the line professional off-the-shelf Macs. So a little bit clarified there. Monitors, this is a common question as well. What was that monitor that your dad used to have? I think it was a Dell, like 30-inch ginormous something. Do you remember that thing?
Yeah, no, yeah. Oh, it was the Dell UltraSharp 32. That thing was massive. We had to get a special monitor arm because we put it up on the monitor arm, and it was like that Saddam Hussein statue. It just kind of went and fell down onto the desk. So we had to get a monitor arm that could hold 150 pounds, and I mean that thing was massive.
Not to mention the video card that you had to put into his machine to power the monitor. Like even your regular like 2 gigabytes nice video cards couldn't power it. It was crazy. Um, so here's a couple of other examples of some standard monitors that we see out there that are being used. And you see some of these specs, some of these prices, just so you know what you're in for when you're looking for these. It's a nice little combo right here with the two 25s mounted together. And then, of course, they're dipping into the high resolution monitor market as well. Um, Here's my desk that I sit at currently. So this is my iMac 27-inch 5K, and then my Thunderbolt 27-inch monitor. So it's a lot of real estate. I've got it all going on. There's my Land Effects mouse pad. There's my Stegosaurus. And you can see I've got full screened on one monitor. There's CAD running right there. That's FX CAD. I believe that's 2016. And then over here, I've got my email. I was making this presentation right here, or your office apps or what have you. So we definitely are big fans of the dual monitor. Every desk in this office has two monitors and looks very similar to this. And it just makes things really easy. It makes multitasking a breeze without having to move everything all the time or minimize, maximize. You can have several programs open, and it's just, it's just something to consider as far as workflow and ease of use.
And you didn't call out. You also have those really nice monitor stands. So those USB monitor stands, each of those has four USB ports. Really decreases the clutter on the desks. We have that on almost every desk here. So get the monitors up a little bit. There's room underneath for your cell phone or your keys or whatever, and of course plugging in things like your cell phone and your Apple Watch and all that. So we don't have to worry about all these just USB cables and hubs and everything, and very nice clean look.
Yeah, those we did standardize those. Almost every desk has those, and they are very handy with the extra ports. Yeah, let's see here. USB drives. So this is particularly geared for that earlier typical office setup presentation where I showed the backup drive and then the offsite drive. So right here, this is what we have in the office, oops, as our backup drive. So this is coming from the server. It's in our server closet. and it's a 2 terabyte. It's fireproof, it's waterproof. It's a great little unit. And we have, since we run a Mac server, we're running our time machine backups automated to this machine. And it's not even that much money for what it is. It's a great device. I would highly recommend that for every office out there, small office. It'd be perfect. And of course, for our offsite drive, we have one of these little guys. It's just pretty basic USB 3, so the transfer rate is fast. And it's just great because it'll fit in like a little medium-sized safe deposit box or your home safe or what have you. So there's a good, inexpensive way to make sure that your backups system is running smoothly and that you're not going to experience any traumatic loss of data. And of course, this is our LandFX 4 gigabyte USB drive. If you purchased FXCAD or LandFX in the last year or two, you probably received one of these in the mail. And what we try to tell everybody with our mailers is that you say, look, you can use this to install the software on your computer, and then you can use this as just a little backup USB drive. I know they've kind of fallen out of fashion because everything's cloud-based and online, but this thing is tiny and it's 4 gigabytes. It fits on your keychain and it's so handy. I use it at least 3 times a week. And also, there's just a little hot tip from that I think is cool. I put a little text file on this and it has my contact info. And I titled the text file like, open me, read me. And on it, it says, hey, you found my keys. Here's my contact. Give me a call. So if I ever lose my keys and anybody's curious and they pop in the drive, they'll see that file and they'll know who I am and how to return my keys. So it's just a little hot tip. If you want one of these and you don't have one, you can go ahead and send an email to admin@landeffects.com and we'll send you one in the mail. So, just a handy thing to have around. Now, servers. This is getting a little bit trickier than everything else. Um, it's important to know that you're in control of your data, your shared resources in your office, your backup system, your LandFX database. It's important to run it from a server machine. Now, about a year ago, we would have recommended without a doubt that you use an office server that's running an operating system that can run LandFX. But as time goes on, we're getting into the future where cloud storage is a reality. We have another option now that people are using. You can use a little network attached storage device. That's just a little hard drive box that's hooked up to your router so everybody can access those files, but it's not really running a proper operating system. It won't run LandFX. So we've always shied away from recommending these in the past. But now you can run LandFX from the cloud, which makes this an attractive low-cost server option. Whereas before we just didn't recommend it. Now this is also not going to work for, say, some of our medium-sized offices that don't use FXCAD. They use AutoCAD and they use a network license, or they use other software that needs to be run from a Windows server. Obviously, this isn't going to be a good solution for that, but it is going to be a good solution if you're primarily using it for file storage and LandFX. It'll work great for that. In our office, we have the Mac Mini server. Um, we love it. The automated backups work well. It's perfect for us because we're an all Mac office. A lot of our file management and office applications are on our Mac side, so that works really well for our office. Now, of course, if you're using a Windows office, there's a couple of great PowerEdge server lines from Dell. They also have their own automated backup programs, um, and of course, it makes it great for Windows-based office who need to run, again, Autodesk, Adobe, any of those Windows-based programs that need to be networked in the office. And this is coming back down here. This is coming back to even if you use cloud file storage, even if you're using Dropbox, we'd still say it's important to have a local networked file storage solution, just for everybody's peace of mind. Um, got anything to say?
I, we got a good question. Yeah, we got a really good question from Jareb, and he was just asking us to kind of clarify what a server is. And that is good to clarify that you have any office is going to have a lot of storage. Like I said, you should be taking high quality photos of all your jobs, right? And I certainly hope everybody is. And that's going to be your primary thing. It's going to fill up a hard drive, a lot of photos. But just, all of your DWGs and attachments and submittals and, your electronic paper trail, right? So in an office, you want to access that information from any machine. And so the best way to do that is from a server. And a simple definition of a server is, it's a dedicated machine that does not being used by an employee on a daily basis. So it typically just sits in a closet, doesn't even have a monitor or a keyboard, but it can and when it needs to be serviced. But the important thing is it's a dedicated machine that's always on and it's optimized for that task. So it has a lot of storage. It has a operating system and a configuration that allows it to speedily serve up these large files over the network, things that would be prohibitively expensive on a workstation, and being more expensive per pound, per gigabyte, per any way you can count it. A server is always going to be more expensive than a workstation, but its lifetime is also much more because it's just quietly sitting there, not being used as a day-to-day basis as a workstation. It can typically last. You're going to consider a server for 5 to 7 years. There, we would say 5 to 6 at most. But still, you're getting a couple more years out of it. So you're able to budget for that higher cost of a server. But having that dedicated machine means that someone rebooting is not going to make someone else unable to save their DWG file, if you're just using a workstation as your file server. So you do want that dedicated machine.
Yeah, and another good thing to have the server for is, for instance, in our office, we have QuickBooks running from it, from a virtual machine, so that the people in our office and the sales team and the administration team, they can all access the networked QuickBooks. That's a really common one for small offices, to have some networked software running from there. And like, for instance, I also offload some of the resource intensive things that I need to do on my computer. After this webinar is done, I have to download the webinar and encode it and then upload it. And that's a process that will stop my computer cold while it's happening. It'll take 20, 30 minutes. So I'll have the server do that so I can continue working. That's also another use for an auxiliary machine. Um, so hopefully, I hope that helps clear that up for everybody as far as what the server is and what the primary purpose of a server is. And again, making sure you have all your files in one place and that they're backed up. So it's just additional peace of mind. Um, so I think that brings us to the 3-2-1 test backup concept. It used to be called the 3-2-1 backup concept, but now we've found a couple of things that have happened recently, including one of our clients and including a small hiccup around here. It's important to test your backup system and make sure that it's working. So that's now we're calling it the 3-2-1 test. So you want 3 copies of your data. In this example, there's 1 copy on an external backup drive. That's not on the server. That's our IO safe. There's 1 copy in the cloud. There's a cloud, like say a Dropbox, there's a copy there, or what have you, and then 1 copy on an offsite drive at your safe at home or your safe deposit box. 2 different formats of data storage. That's the 2. So in this example, there's 1 format is a cloud storage and 1 format is a USB hard drive. And then make sure one of them is offsite. And in our case, we just have our monthly offsite backup that we do like clockwork. It's on the calendar. the drive comes into the office. The backup procedure is almost automated now. It's starting to get easier and easier. And then that day, the drive goes back to its safe home outside the office. So if the office burns up, we still have the data on a backup drive outside the office. And again, test. I would recommend 4 times a year. That's not too much, but that's just enough to ensure that you're using your data, testing it, and making sure everything's working smoothly. I think that's absolutely important, just so you know your system is functioning, you know the integrity of the data that you have backed up is solid and that it's correct. Um, and then with this concept in mind, the simple 3-2-1 test, I think I think that everybody will have some peace of mind and won't have that traumatic data loss that we've seen so many times. Jer?
Yeah, and just well to give you the put the little fear of God into you, um, as you're planning your backup strategy, the one thing it's like buying health insurance, or I'm sorry, buying life insurance. You don't want to think about it, but you do have to, and just get your mind into it. Get ready. Like, okay, I'm planning my backup strategy, and the thing I would remind you of is events like Hurricane Katrina. A lot of people lost a lot with Hurricane Katrina, and so you may say, "Oh, I have an offsite backup." Well, your offsite backup, chances are, is in the same town, and a natural disaster can absolutely wipe out your office and your home. And so that's why that cloud backup is so imperative. Now, granted, you could say, well, an asteroid could hit California and wipe out the server for the offsite backup and my home. And, so you could maybe get a little paranoid and particularly find an offsite backup that's maybe based in, across the country or something. But primarily it's just the importance of that cloud backup, in that, if your offsite backup is in the same town, do consider it. That would be unfortunate. A tornado or hurricane, or something that can wipe out the 2 copies. So that's where your 3 copies, you want to get a little of that super pessimistic I'm gonna die mindset going on, when you consider, what do you want to happen when God forbid that happens, and just think it out, and it's not such a bad thing. Look at that. We also just keep it simple. 3-2-1 test.
And we hit this home. We try to drive this home as much as we can. We try to remind our clients because we've had major clients call us, the huge companies that have had the test portion fail, and they go to restore from their backup and they find that that failed. And then they are freaking out, and then they've lost hundreds of thousands of dollars. So we just want to like drive this home as much as possible, no matter how big or how small your office is. I think it's imperative. Um, and of course, we're here for you. We're here for you to talk about hardware if you need it. Um, there are a lot of resources that we have on our website, and we've got documentation, knowledge base, we've got a new trainer video system. If you've got a question, we've got multiple ways to contact us. There are search bars on our website on almost every single page, and this is the quickest way to find your solution. If you've got a simple question, we've documented almost everything that comes across our desks. So a lot of times you're going to find the answer really fast. That's the fastest way. You can submit a ticket from our support page. That's a very efficient way if you're having an issue with a specific product or a specific project, sorry. Just submit a ticket where you can submit your project and your CAD drawings with it. That way it's easy for us to find a quick solution to your issue. And we're always here. Just call us. We're here for you if you need to talk. Um, uh, so just to sum it up, when you're getting a new computer, verify the video memory and the solid state hard drive. Those are very important. Make sure you're budgeting for your new computer every few years. Make sure you're considering using a server and backing up your data. That's we just can't say enough about these. Um, about any of this stuff. And even, I just want to throw a little quick thing in here. Even if you get a new computer, it's important to optimize it for CAD performance. We've done a lot of work with this. If you just search for optimal AutoCAD performance, Land Effects is what is this, number 3 in a Google organic result. I'm not signed in, it doesn't know that's me, and so kind of proud of that, so that's pretty cool. Go here and check it out. It's got all of the information on all the little things that we found along the way to make sure that even though you have a fast, snappy computer, you're still going to need to maintain it and make sure you're doing these things to keep AutoCAD running smoothly. That's super important. Um, so I think that wraps it up for me, Jer. What do you say?
I think that's pretty good. We have one last question, which is good. Jeffrey was just asking about mice, about high precision mice, and the only one that I could think of was the Razer gaming mice, Razer. Those are the ones that I know have really made a name for themselves in terms of very high precision. They have some crazy, I don't even know what it means, but the scan rate of the laser is twice that of a normal mount, whatever. But one of those things my dad was into as well is he always wanted the high precision mice with those, and so we got a bunch of those Razer mice. Yeah, there we go. What 16,000 DPI? Okay, whatever. I don't even know what that means. Um, but
Uh,
uh, but without fail, if you will notice a difference when you use it with CAD work, you absolutely will. It is a more precise mouse, and at that point though, you then need I mean, you have to invest in a better mouse pad, and they have recommendations on the particular material that of a mouse pad because you need to move it fluidly, and heck, at that point you need to clean the bottom of your mouse every day. So you know.
that is getting a little intense, but it's high quality equipment, so you get what you pay for, kind of thing. What are the other mouse brands that we use a lot here in the office? We use those Logitechs, I believe, as kind of a
Yeah, we're
medium.
pretty much an all Logitech.
Yeah, and they make good stuff too. It's got the multi-button stuff that you need for CAD work, the center scroll and all that. We don't recommend using standard Apple mouse devices. They're not optimized for CAD. They're just not great for stuff like that. Um, but yeah, I hope that helps with the mouse recommendations.
Yeah, myself, I've just been so hooked on wireless mice. I cannot use a mouse with a cable. Because I'm just been so used to a wireless mouse for so many years. When I have to use a mouse that's got the USB cable, I can feel the difference, and it just feels like that cable is pulling on the mouse and preventing it from being moved. And so that would also be my recommendation is to take a look at a wireless mouse.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
I have an ergonomic setup here. This is a wireless Microsoft ergonomic mouse that kind of sits a little sideways, and then it's got this split keyboard with the bulge in the middle, so the wrists sit nice and easy. That's just something for my personal preference, but this mouse also has the basic multi-button functionality that could be used for serious CAD work as well.
exactly.
So,
Well, I think we have no more questions. So if anyone, of course, thinks of anything, you're welcome to contact us. But hope you enjoyed it. And other than that, have a great weekend.
all right, goodbye, everybody.